Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me are two people who think that True Lies is better than Speed. It's John Levingood and Megan Hoffmeyer.
No question. No question.
Hey, I voted for it.
Yeah. Well, you voted for True Lies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were very upset.
Yeah.
Well, so here's a reason that has nothing to do with my actual critical estimation of either of these films, right? True Lies. I can watch, we were saying this about Tombstone before, but I can watch True Lies anytime it's on TV and pick it up wherever it is multiple days in a row. I can't do that to Speed. Speed is like once every several years for me. It's not necessarily an inferior movie, in my opinion, but just based on pure, like, it's on. I'm happy to watch it wherever it is. Right now, for me, that's all day True Lies.
Yeah, I would say what I was telling Mark when we were talking about his betrayal over the online polls was that it's probably been, I don't know, a decade since I've seen either movie, but I remember more of the beats in True Lies and how entertaining it was, as opposed to Speed, where it's just sort of a blur.
It's just three movies in one. No.
If we're being fair, we're going to get to this, but True Lies is like a one-liner that is memorable from some character every 5 minutes.
And this movie won the tournament. It won the overall 1990s tournament. True Lies did. And then I put up another poll between Speed and True Lies. I got a ton of votes, and True Lies beat Speed because True Lies met Demolition Man in the final. It was closer between Demolition Man and True Lies than it was between True Lies and Speed, which is gnarly. But after watching True Lies again, I think I probably hadn't watched this movie in a decade, and I forgot how much of a comedy it is. It's really funny. This is a funny movie, and I love how kind of smug Schwarzenegger is in this movie. And I think it's almost perfect casting. He loves being a spy. He almost loves lying to his family. He's kind of a jerk in this movie, but I just forgot the humor and the Tom Arnold and Schwarzenegger going back and forth, and Jamie Lee Curtis falling off when she was dancing, she falls off the bed thing there. Like, it's just even the terrorists in this movie are such two-dimensional caricatures. Actually, they wanted the IRA to be the villains, but since Blown Away they said, okay, we'll pick somebody else. But
and The Devil's Own was within like a year of this too, I think.
Yeah. So you had Brad Pitt with a Northern Irish accent. You had Jeff Bridges, right? No.
And Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. Oh, oh, I was thinking Arlington Road, but those weren't IRA. So there, and also
isn't that Tim Robbins?
Yeah,
Arlington Road?
And then Patriot Games, the IRA were the villains. So I think in the 90s they were just like, we need new villains. So they just threw in. Actually, James Cameron liked the actor Art Nalick a lot, so he gave him the role.
Yeah, and I mean, there were some global things happening at
Yeah.
the time. As we've said, you and I watched the full set of Bond movies because you got the box set one year, and it was funny to watch how the villains changed with the political climate of the world. It was like, right now, the Russians are a problem, so they're the bad guys. At some point, the Chinese and the Japanese are a problem, so they're the bad guys, and just sort of shifted over time.
Cold War, all that kind of stuff. But no, I had a lot of fun, and I'm happy this movie won. We had a great time watching this on Friday, John. So is this one of your favorite action movies, John?
I mean, yeah, that's such a hard thing to answer, but like going with my gut, if someone said, would True Lies be in your top 5 action movies almost any day, I'd probably say yes.
I think you would be.
If I'm ruling out martial arts movies, though.
I think you would be frozen in one spot, Levingood. If someone said, Levingood, what are your 5 favorite action movies?
I'd be a T-800 that got stabbed through the head.
You would just look like you would just perch. You would freeze. You would be like a tree, and I don't think you could process.
That's not fair.
And I'm not, John. I'm not insulting because remember when we did this poll, you were like, I can't vote. I can't do it. I can't do it.
We'd have to cheat on the rules. Like I lump all John Wicks together as one John Wick.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Yeah, and since
there were a couple of votes where I would write like I can't do it, I'm not going to vote, and when I wrote that I meant it. I absolutely could not bring myself to cast a keystroke.
If you and I are ever talking and I need some like peace and quiet, I'd be like, John, what are your 5 favorite action movies? And then you would just kind of short circuit for about a half hour, and I'd just be able to.
These are tough questions for a movie. It's like when people who like say they like movies on a dating app or something, they really mean like, I go to a few movies a year. Like for people like us, like what if you said what are your top 5 1990s martial arts movies? Then I could give you an answer probably in a few minutes.
All right, Drunken Master 2, right? Drunken Master 2, which is amazing. The one with Jet Li that came out in 94, where he's just destroying people. Fist of Legend, right?
Yep, Fist of Legend.
Fist
I
of
might
Legend.
throw Super Cop in there over
Super
Rumble
Cop.
in the Bronx, right?
Would you put is Super Cop 3 with Michelle Yeoh, is that a martial arts film or is that an action film?
So I'm going to call that, if we're just specifying martial arts films, I'm going to call it a martial arts film. But any martial arts film, I suppose, is also an action film.
Yeah, this is where we have a problem when Mark is doing his data posts, categorizing some movies that, are multi-genre.
I would do Once Upon a Time in China 2, Part 2. I got 3 out of 5 in there.
Is this a specific
this is
time
tough.
period?
We should
if someone said, what are your top 5 horror movies of the 90s, you'd have a hard time. If someone said, what are your top 5 thrillers of the 90s, now I'm not saying I have the list right away, but immediately Silence of the Lambs goes in there.
I think I would consider Silence of the Lambs a horror movie. Maybe.
Right, but I'm taking like subcategories.
Scream,
so I mean,
New Nightmare. Is Deep Blue Sea a horror movie?
I would understand people calling it that. I think I'd gravitate towards just calling it an action movie, but it depends on your own reaction to it in a way, right?
Yeah. I would never want to argue that fact. If someone said Deep Blue Sea is not a horror film, I'd be like, I'm with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like if someone wants to call Aliens an action movie and Alien a sci-fi thriller, I'm like, I get it. If someone wants to call either of them a horror movie, I'm like, sure. Like, I get it. These are multi-genre things.
You know what we learned? This is a multi-genre movie, I think. It's like a screwball comedy action film, which I love. And you know that it has the distinction. It's in the Guinness World Records of being the first movie to cost $100 million. And James Cameron was really pissed about it because they didn't count inflation. He's like, if you looked at Cleopatra, Gone with the Wind, and you counted for inflation, they would be the first. He's like, but since mine was... So then I guess Gone with the Wind's the first $40 million. Cleopatra is the first $60 million. Right. And he was pissed, though. He's like, I shouldn't be in this because you're not counting inflation. And that's something we always laugh about. And also, Megan found this out, which I don't know if you knew or you knew this, John. It's a remake of a French film.
I did not know that. You commented on that to me in a message, and I stared cross-eyed at that comment.
It's almost beat for beat, except for the end. We went on Wikipedia and looked up the plot of the French movie, and it's very similar up until, they get to the 7 Mile Bridge in the Keys. But
La Totale is the name.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point. And Megan read through the Wikipedia, and we just sat there going, what? What? What?
Even to the point where his name is Helene.
Yeah. So his wife's character in this is Helene in La Totale, and then this one, Jamie Lee Curtis, is Helen.
How old is this movie?
91, 92. We were gonna rent it. Yeah, we went online and we were gonna watch it, but we didn't. Yeah, it's not streaming anywhere. But we gotta see this. And we also learned there's no Blu-ray yet for True Lies. Mm-hmm. Which is weird.
I was baffled when you said that, and I actually walked over to my own collection. Because, Amazon gives you recommendations all the time or stuff that's on sale. It's like, that at some point, if there was a Blu-ray of that, it would have been on sale for $6 or $10 or something like that, during a Christmas sale or something. And I would have it, but I don't. I have my old Snapcase.
And a lot of people were kind of saying that he hasn't done it. Oh, he hasn't done it yet because he went into Titanic immediately after True Lies, and then he started jumping into Avatar.
Well, didn't he say he wants to remaster it, but it just takes too much time?
Yeah, and he also hasn't remastered another one of his movies that, like in the 90s. Yeah, he still wants to do a lot of remastering. He just doesn't have time to do it. But there were theories going, he doesn't like it. He thinks it's outdated. I'm like, but you have no proof of this. There's a lot of weird articles, actually, about this movie.
I feel like a lot of people just didn't bother to get this movie because they're looking at it through a very smug, modern lens. But I've been reading Carrie L's As You Wish, and they talk about, obviously the movies are nothing like each other, but they talk about how they had to strike this fine balance in playing comedy, but being straight about it. Mm-hmm. Instead of winking and laughing. So they've got Tom Arnold definitely telling the jokes in True Lies. But everybody else kind of plays their parts very seriously. It's only when you go, okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a super spy who speaks multiple languages and he's super slick and all these things that it is a comedy.
Yeah, it's a total, and I don't know. But I want to clarify something on this real quick. So an article came out saying that in Captain Marvel, she blew off Arnold Schwarzenegger's head because the directors think that True Lies is like a sexist and xenophobic film. But in fact, the directors got approval from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they almost picked The Mask, but they went with True Lies because when Ryan Fleck, one of the co-directors, was working in a blockbuster, he had that stand-in, and he loves those movies. And they wanted a lot of the action scenes to represent James Cameron movies. So when they blow off Arnold's head of True Lies, it's not a statement. They just love the movie. So this article that came out about why like they did it because they hate True Lies is false. I just want to get that out there.
So any comment though that True Lies is sexist and what?
Xenophobic.
And xenophobic. Okay. Sexist and xenophobic. Just to be fair, now this was a huge blockbuster, and a lot of aspects of this film are exaggerated for comedy or action, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But despite that, is this really much more, if we're going to call it sexist or xenophobic, does this really stand out from other action movies of the early 90s?
No.
Like, this just
or
strikes
even
me
from
as
Bond movies in general.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yep, but like whatever sexism. When you said that, I was paying attention when I watched this again recently. And this is a movie that, by the way, my whole life I've watched once or twice a year, no joke, since it came out. So this is very familiar to me. So I really paid attention. And yeah, there's some woman shaking, there's woman slapping, there's a girl fight and cute dresses. Fine, but the women have a lot more strong moments than I think women would in early 90s action movies in general.
Yeah.
Helen Tasker and Juno are two stronger women, villain or protagonist, when they have their moments than you normally find in any early 90s movie, unless it's starring Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah, and I have written in my notes here, Tia is tough. Because she is just a badass in this movie.
She's tough. She's smart. She's a successful business person who happens to be working with some bad people, right?
Yeah.
She's physically tough. She's very astute.
She knows what she wants, and she lets that guy slap her around because she's not going to let that get in her way of what she wants.
Right. Well, and if he's upset, he might kill her.
Yeah, that too. But she knows how to get what she wants.
Well, she knows how to play the game.
Business person, yeah.
Yeah, she's doing this for money. And then she took the role because she got to play a villain.
Is he treating her well? No, obviously. But they all have very sketchy moral compasses.
Yeah, and I'm not condoning that, but I don't know. But
he's the bad guy.
Yeah, we don't have to spend that much time on this, but I was a little worried because I read the article and then I hadn't watched True Lies in a while. I'm like, oh no. But then that article never even mentioned that it was. So a bunch of articles sprouted out from this article because they took it as fact. But if you're listening to this, just know that I went down. Megan was right next to me. I went down a deep wormhole, going, "Oh no, is True Lies sexist?" So watching the movie, I did a ton of research, and the Captain Marvel directors loved True Lies. So that article is not. I just want to get that out there real quick because that frustrated me, and Megan can attest. I was worried.
No, it bothers me hearing those accusations. Was that era like that? Yeah, sure. Is that movie stand up? I do not think so.
I do have to say, I laughed so hard. I think I shocked Megan a little bit. But that scene where he plugs that key into the nuclear device to set it off, and Eliza Dushku takes it.
And then he walks away from it.
Yeah, and then he goes, with
and then he shows it off.
He goes, with that key. And then I guess the producer...
The reporter.
Yeah, the reporter goes, what key?
That key, right there.
And I love, the guy shot that rocket launcher, and it blew the guy out the front window. And they all run in front of that gun that Jamie Lee Curtis... this movie, I don't know, I guess... I never considered it so much of a comedy when I was younger. It's weird. But now I watch it, and I find it even more charming in that regard.
I think when we're younger, we see the things that are funny, and we acknowledge that they're all funny, but we don't know all the layers of why they're funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so at the time, it just feels like this is Arnold getting a lot of great one-liners, and we giggle when he gets it. But then just all the layers of parenthood and your work relationship and your spouse and issues at work and terrorists, whatever. But there are a lot of interesting layers in this.
Oh my gosh, there's this great line when they're in the spy headquarters reviewing some footage. They make this throwaway, stupid reference to The Music Man, to a song from it. They say, where's the